In this video, I'm going to share with you guys my top 3 favorite Sony full-frame lenses for shooting portraits. Welcome back to The Breakdown. My name is Miguel Quiles, and I thought I would take some time today to talk to you guys about my favorite portrait lenses when I'm shooting with Sony full-frame cameras. Now, for the lion's share of my work, I actually use a lens like this. This is the 85mm 1.8 lens from Sony. Now, if you shoot with other brands, 85mm 1.8 is a very common focal length to be able to get for any system. But specifically with Sony, I really love this lens. It actually gives me the ability to shoot very close-up portraits, which if you follow my work online, you'll see that I love shooting very tight cropped portraits. And the 85 does a really good job of flattering features on people's faces. It doesn't actually give them kind of a round, distorted look to their face, which I really like with this lens. Now with the 85 1.8 from Sony, it also features the focus hold button, as does the other two picks, but we'll talk about those momentarily. But this focus hold button will help me to be able to get the eyes in focus since I have it set to IAF on all of my full frame camera bodies. So the 85 1.8, if I go through all of the images that I've shot over the last 5 or 6 years, chances are 85mm is where I shot them at. All right, let's talk about my second pick for portrait lenses on the Sony full frame system, which is the 100mm 2.8 STF lens. Now, the STF stands for Smooth Transition Focus. This actually has 2 lens elements in the inside of this lens, and what it does, really without getting too technical, is that it gives you better blurred backgrounds. So if you're photographing people, you get a really nice separation between your subject and the background, a little bit different than what you would get if you were shooting wide open on an 85 1.8, even though it's a 2.8 lens. So the really cool thing about this, and you might be wondering, well, if you have an 85mm lens, why would you get a 100mm lens? They're both very similar focal lengths. The really great thing about this in particular is that it actually gives you much sharper subjects. So for example, if I'm photographing and taking a portrait of a person, let's say they have really good skin, and I want to be able to capture that skin texture in the image, I would reach for the 100mm STF lens over the 85 1.8 because I could actually get more detail, more texture in that portrait. Now, the inverse is also true. If I'm taking a portrait of somebody who maybe doesn't have great skin, maybe they have scars, or they're very self-conscious about those things, I would not grab this lens. I would actually go for the 85. So I tend to switch between these 2 lenses just depending on how much of the sharpness am I trying to get out of this portrait, and am I trying to blur a background or not. So 100mm STF, really awesome lens. Now the third lens that I really love to use when I'm shooting portraits, whether I'm in the studio or shooting on location, is the 70mm to 200mm lens from Sony. Now this particular one is the G Master version, which is an f2.8 aperture, and it is a really fantastic lens if you're going outdoors and you don't want to switch lenses, because obviously you have an 85 and 100, but let's just say you don't want to invest in a bunch of lenses. You just want to buy one lens, go outside and take a bunch of portraits. The 70 to 200 is the lens for you. This particular lens, the reason why I reach for it is that it actually gives you prime lens type of sharpness at every single focal range. It's a really awesome lens to be able to do that. Now the downside of it is quite a bit bigger and heavier than these 2 lenses. So you will be walking around with a little bit of added weight on your camera. However, any situation that you run into, if you want to shoot a tight shot, if you want to shoot a full body image, you could do all of that with a 70 to 200 without any type of compromise. All right, everybody, so those are my top 3 portrait lenses, whether I'm shooting outdoors, if I'm shooting in the studio, these are the ones that I reach for every time when I'm shooting. Now, one of the things that I also want to mention again is that all 3 of the lenses that we talked about have this focus hold button on the side of the lens, which I typically will set to eye autofocus. Now, if you're not sure what eye autofocus is, I did a video for Adorama for my episodes, The Breakdown, where you can actually see, and we'll link it here in this video, and you can actually watch and see exactly what that eye autofocus feature will do. But all of the lenses do offer that, and it's something that's very useful when you're shooting portraits. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you get a chance, make sure that you go check out the Adorama Learning Center. They have a lot of great content there on cameras, video, drones, all sorts of great stuff. So thank you so much for watching the breakdown, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.